Just starting from Nun Gimel Amid Beis. When a kid in school is learning and he's saying brachas, but not l'shem for the sake of saying a bracha, he's not eating an apple. He's practicing. Are you allowed to say amen after his bracha? Amalei achar hakol einin amen. But chutz mitinoika shabeis rabim. Why? Hayol uslamed asuyin. They're only doing it to learn. Rashi says she'im miskaven levarich elo lamed. There's no kavanah for bracha. V'hani mili shaloi edan miftarayu. That is not when in the old they still do it, but the ketanim, young kids before bar mitzvah used to do the haftarah, right? But if they're called up for maftin and doing the brachas, then you do say amen. Rashi says amen. So that's why also when a kid is making a bracha on food and he says a bracha, you do say amen. So Tana Rabbanan, shemen makiv es a bracha. The oil that you bring in, Rashi says, shemen shayirigilun lehevi b'seif asuda lasuch achar asuda sidayim. That oil that you bring out achar mayim achroinim lahaver sumasan. So before you're allowed to start benching, if that was the minute to use oil to rub on your hands, you have to have the shemen, and then you're allowed to make berachos hamazon. Divrei Rabbi Ziloi, Rabbi Zivoi aime eina makav. The shemen is not ma'akev, even though normally you use it, and today you don't have it. You could start berachos hamazon. Rav Acha Amar shemen toiv ma'akev. It's a shemen toiv. Rashi says the bottom shemen toiv. She has by some ma'akev zabrachas. Some oils are ma'akev, and that is l'misha ragul boy. So it's not really a shemen toiv. If somebody's always doing it, so you cannot bench before you use that shemen. So it is ma'akev. So it's like a three-way machlokes here. And Rabbi Za'amo Aimer kishem shemezuim pasal al avayda. Just if somebody is dirty or smelly, he's possible to do avodah. A kohen is possible to do avodah. Kach yodayim uzahamas, dirty hands are also psula is lebracha. That's his halacha. I wonder when he got his name. If he got his name Rabbi Zu'ama after he said his halacha, or he had his name beforehand. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Anna. Rav Nachman says Anna loy ziloi. I don't go with ziloi that said shemen's ma'akev, loy zivoi that it's not ma'akev, loy Zu'ama. I don't know yadana. I know a masnitin yadana. I know a brisa. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav Amar Levi masnitin tanu. We learned in a brisa. Biskadashtem elamayim rishonim ve'yisem kedoshim elamayim achronim, and ki kadosh says shemen. So you do use shemen. I have a brisa that says that. Hashem lakechem, and that's the zu bracha. That's what the berachos hamazon is. Okay, hatan ralach elat dvarim. Mishnah haroyim makim shenas by nisim Yisrael. If somebody comes to a place where the nes, a miracle happened to Klal Yisrael, aimer you say baruch shasa nisim labaseinu b'makim hazeh. And Tosfos says, you look at the top Tosfos, the cholani brachas tzrichas la'askara Hashem u'malchus. It's just not when the Mishnah says baruch. You don't just say Baruch, you have to say Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, right? And we have that also when you have a bar mitzvah boy, right? You say Baruch Shebetrani, and there's different minhagim. If you say Baruch or you say Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. What's Arminic?
Not to say Shem HaMalchus.
Not to say Shem HaMalchus. The place that says you do say Shem HaMalchus. And one guy joked, it all depends what type of kid you're getting rid of, right? If he was a miserable kid, you say Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Shebetrani Yon Shvizalzeh. Okay. Malkum Shenekaboy Akum, a place where you could learn where Avodah Zarah was uprooted. Ayim Baruch She'akar Akum Me'artzenu. It's Avodah Zarah. But you look at Tosfos, Tosfos V'Yishalmi Masnei, Kishenekra Akum Mikol Eretz Yisrael. In other words, it seems like from Tosfos not only Avodah Zarah, but even a goy. Get rid of those Arabs right out of Eretz Yisrael, and then you make this bracha. Ala Zikin, Vala Zois, Vala Ramos. If you have all these Valaruchas, Valabrakim, thunder and lightnings and all these things. If you come to beautiful hills and cliffs, Valayamim, beautiful big oceans, Valanoris, Valmidvarios, Berachos. But it's just not any hill, right? It has to be a certain a beautiful hill. We see the great sea. And that is only when you are seeing it once in a while. Rashi says, but if you constantly see it, if you live right by this, you don't have to say it every day. But if you see it once in a while, that's when you say it. V'kana ke or v'kana kelim chadashim. Aimer baruch shechiyanu v'kimanu v'yanu lazman hazeh. And also mevarech al hara mein al ha'tova. Al hara mein al ha'tova. You make a bracha dayin emes if it's a Rashi says al hara, even though it could be tova, but it is raw now. So you do the bracha baruch dayin emes or bal ha'tova mein al hara. That bracha you say is ha'tova meitiv. If somebody cries about something in the past, with something happened. You have to look at the future. That this kid should be a boy, it's too late. If you're going on the way, you hear screaming in the city. That shouldn't be in my house. I reserve to Shav because it's already happening already. If somebody's coming into a city and it's basically a tough city there, that everything should be good, that you should get in there that you got out. Ben Azai, that's basically Harlem. What? Oh, you say Borough Park? Chas v'sholem. Ben Azai Omer. Arba. Here's a guy that grew up in Belgium and Antwerpen's worse than Borough Park. Arba Shtayim, you say for them. Shtayim b'chinisasai, v'shtayim b'yitziyasai. Noisin ada al sha'avar. You thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so you don't cry about what happened, but you thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the past. But v'tzayek. But then on the future he could sit down and daven. Chayiv adam l'varech al hara. A person is mechuyev even though something bad comes, you still bless HaKadosh Baruch Hu, make a bracha, kshem shavarech al ha'toiva, just like you do all toiva. Shnema shtez na'afta Hashem l'kecha b'chol levavcha b'shnei yitzarecha b'yetz ha'toiv v'yetz ha'hara. So you see that even on a ra, you still v'ahavta, you have a havas Hashem. B'chol nafshecha afilu naitul nafshecha b'chol me'aydecha b'chol me'aynecha davar achar. Means not in your money. Whatever God gives you, whatever your portion is, have a maidalai. In other words, say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Adam as Rosh Keneged Shara Mizrach, a person shouldn't use Kal as rice. Rashi says by the eastern gate, Shu Mechuven Keneged Beis HaKodesh HaKadoshim. The person shouldn't go into the harabayis, b'makla with his stick, with his belt, the bavik shalarai, and his sand on his feet. You also shouldn't make it a shortcut. That's why if anybody's coming into shul, you shouldn't go just through the shul and take the shortcut. Right? You should just stop for a second, maybe do something or say something. And for sure, you cannot spit on the harabayis. When they used to finish a bracha in the Beis HaMikdash, they didn't say Amen, they used to say Ad Ha'olam. In other words, so Mishikilkal at Tzedukim, when the Apikaris at Tzedukim came along and says Ad Ha'olam is mashma, there's only Ha'olam, Ha'olam Hazev, Amr Ein Ha'olam Elechad. Then Iskino, they didn't say Ad Ha'olam, they said Sha'imrim Min Ha'olam Ad Ha'olam. There's Ha'olam Hazeh and there's Ha'olam Ha'emes. It's a future world. Iskino Shi Adam Shayos Shalom Chaveroi B'Shem. When you're asking or you're blessing your friend, you should even use HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. Shenemar v'ini boaz ba'am beis lechem v'yoyim lekaytzem Hashem imachem. You can use even HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not mevuzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'yoyim lo yivracha Hashem. V'yoyim another pasuk Hashem amcha giva v'chayil. V'yoyim al tavos kizikni imecha. V'yoyim eis lasos l'Hashem even afer terasecha. Rashi says, toward the bottom of the narrow lines, like 5 lines, something, even though you're using Hashem's name, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. Stop learning, and you even use HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, so even though you're using Hashem's name in vain, if it looks Usser, Rashi says, it's a chiddush in Rashi. If it looks Usser, then you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to say it. But if it's actually Usser, then you should not say Hashem's name. Just if it looks a little fishy, then you're allowed to go ahead and out of the way and say Hashem's name. Rav Nasan Eimer, Hafei Rasecha Mishum Eis Lasas Lashem. Yeah, the same thing. But no, Mili now, the Gemara says. How do you know you make the brachas? on miracles. When you go to a place there was a miracle, how do you know you make a bracha? Amar Rav Yechon Amakra, Vayomer Yisroi Baruch Hashem Asher Hitzil. Rashi says, Manol Nevarchim Anisa. The question is, so from Yisroi we see. So Gemara says, Anisa the Rabbin Varchinan only on a Rabbin miracle. How about if something happened to yourself? Anisa the Yachid. If it happened to an individual, Oy Marachinan. But how Gavra, there was a person Nabakazel Be'evri Yemina. Nafal, he was going Be'evri Yemina. Rashi says, Shem Medina B'droim Mishal Pras. It's the name of a country by Pras. And Nafal of Arya, a lion attacked him. Zavile Nisa Vitzl Mineu. And he got saved. Also the Kami the Rava. So he came to Rav. Amalei called Emas b'matis la'asim. Anytime you get there, Baruch she'asa li neis b'makom hazeh. So you see, even for a yachid, individual, you make a bracha. Another story. Ma'abreid Ravina avakasel b'paksa the Arvis. He was going b'paksa in a valley of Arvos. That's the name of the place. B'tzacha l'maya, and he was thirsty. And he couldn't find any water. He said, Avalei Nisa, Iverlei Eina de Maya. All of a sudden he saw a little well. The Ishtei of water, and he drank. He was going in the marketplace of Mechuza. A wild camel attacked him. Isparkale and Ashita, all of a sudden a wall opened up and the camel was charging. This is a story with Rashi actually. The story with Rashi's mother. When Rashi's mother was pregnant and she was walking down in France and a narrow alleyway, a horse came down and I saw a Jewish lady wanted to run her over, right? And she pressed against the wall and it's brought down that the wall opened up for her and she went right in. That was a nest. So anyway, here too, the camel was attacking this Marbraid Ravina, Isparkali Ashita. So a wall fell down, and all the Gava, and he went in there. Kimata Arvos. So every time Marbraid Ravina came to Arvos, so for Marbraid Ravina, two nisim happened. He got saved from the camel, and he got the water, right? So what did he do? When he came to Arvos, Baruch Shasli Nes, Arvos, when he came to Arvos, and then he included also the Gamal, and also with the camel, he included. There, Baruch Oishashmines the Gamal with the camel, and Uva Arvos in Arvos. He mentioned that first, right? So the Medayik here, why doesn't it say the name? The Gamal happened, where did the Gamal happen? The story happened in Mechuza, right? So why doesn't he mention the name Mechuza, right? He didn't say water and camel, he named, right? So that's the deal of why they did that. So they answer that the Arvos was obvious, since it was a bikkur, Rashi said it was a valley, so it was never water, so it was obvious that the problem was water. But in Mechuza, it was not obvious that the thing happened that was a camel, right? Could have been something else. That's why you had to mention what it was. Okay. So what do we see from here? That even on a yachid, individual nace, you make a bracha, a good yor. You have the place? Okay. You don't have the place yet. So who's going to help him out? Nun dollar towards the bottom. 15 lines in the bottom. So where it answers, Amri, Anisi the Rabbin Kulyal Mechayel Vruche. You're right. On a Rabbin Dikenes, the whole klal has to do it. Anisi the Yachid, only Iu Chayel Vruche, the person himself. But his friend doesn't have to make a bracha for him. Tanu Rabbanan. Haroye Ma'arves Hayom. If somebody comes to the place where Rashi says 2 lines on the bottom, Makom she'avru Yisrael b'Yamsuf, the place where they split the sea.
We know what that is.
It seems like they did know, right? You go to Eretz Yisrael, you get a tour guide, and he'll find you the place. So Maharvis at Yarden, or in the place.
And even if he doesn't, he'll tell you he did.
First, he's going to get the money, and then he'll tell you where it is, right?
Take it to Yamamela, I'll say right there.
You don't joke. All these tours are really very interesting. Right? You look at these guys, you don't think they know how to learn, and they give you a tour, and they give you details, and you learn a lot from them. You know?
Well, they quote the Nabi.
Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, Umarv is at Yarden, and also where Yeshua passed. The Yarden. Ma'aver is not are known. We'll see that what happened there later. Avnei al Gavish. Also, we'll see the stones of al Gavish, or B'moret Beis Choron. We'll see that later. B'mei Yeshua, Rashi says. We'll see it later on. Be'evan shebikesh lizroik oik melech haboshno Yisrael. And on the base, we'll see the stone that Oik picked up, the mountain he picked up. He wanted to throw it on Klal Yisrael. Be'evan sheyoshev alei Moshe b'shas she'asa Yeshua milchama b'Amalek. And the stone, when Moshe was very tired, keeping up his hands when they were fighting Amalek. So that stone, also, when you see that, you have to make a bracha.
That would make a heck of a suit.
I thought he was just holding up his hands.
Who was? No, the stone, not he's holding. We'll see it later on. Okay. No, yeah, we'll see it. Wait, Amid Beis. It's the stone, but when Moshe was davening, he needed a stone. We'll see it on Amid Beis. The Ishta Shalot, and also if you see the pillar of salt of Lot. And you have to understand that too, because that wasn't a nest. That's actually she was punished, right? So why do you have to make a bracha?
She was punished by
We'll see in the Gemara, okay? Just give me a little... The Chaimish Yericho Shenivlav and also the walls of Yericho that got swallowed into the ground when they came. That was the first city they came when they came to Eretz Yisrael. Al Kulan Tzarech Yitin Haidav Ishvach B'nei Hamakim. You thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara says Bishlei Ma'aris Hayam, where it was Kriyas Yamsuf Diksiv Hayavayi B'nei Yisrael B'tech Hayam Bayabasha. So there was a nest. We have to make a Haidav. Ma'aris Hayard Niksiv Bayamdu HaKahanim Bayishua Nois Aron Bris Hashem Beruchave B'tech Hayardin Hachein B'cha Yisrael Oyvrim B'charav. They came in when it was dry. Ate Shetomer Kol HaGoy La'aris Hayardin. So it was a nest there. So you have to say thank you HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Elam Ma'aris Nachal Arno Min Olam. Where do you see the miracle that happened by Nachlas Arnon? The Ksiv, it says, Akein Yoimar B'Sefer L'chamas Hashem Es V'av B'Sofa. In other words, what does that mean? Tana, Es. Es was the name of a person. V'Hav. And Hav, these two people, Shnei Mitzrayim Haya. They were two guys that are Mitzayras. They had leprosy. And therefore, they couldn't go together with Klal Yisrael. So when they were traveling, they were in the back. Right? So Yisrael, when the Jewish people started coming to Eretz Yisrael, Asam Arayu, and always the Maran, the Arabs went ahead of the lake. They wanted to attack Klal Yisrael. What did they do? Avdalei Nikirusai. They carved out in a mountain holes, and they were hiding in these mountains, and they were going to attack Klal Yisrael. V'tashavum, and they hid there. Right? Amri. These Arabs says, Ki Chofi Yisrael Hacha, when they come by these mountains, Nakblino will kill them, will attack. But they didn't know, these Arabs didn't know, the Aron Havemaski Kamed Yisrael, the Aron with the Shnei Luchais, the broken Luchais were coming in front of Klal Yisrael. What did it do? When the Aron came, it collapsed, it leveled those mountains. And unfortunately, these Arabs were in there and they got killed. But Klal Yisrael was walking, they didn't know what's going on, right? The mountain collapsed, they didn't know what's going on there, and they went, oh, everything's fine. But Kiyasa Aron, and in other words, when the Aron went, then the mountains actually they came together. Now, Klal Yisrael already passed, but these two Mitzaram at the back, they came in Nachas Damayel and Nachal Arnoim. The Arab's blood dripped into the river of Arnon, Ki Asa, Es, and Vahav. When these two Mitzaram came, Chazadama, the Kanafim, Beniture, they saw all this blood dripping out, right? But the mountains came back up, and the blood was dripping from there. When Klal Yisrael passed, the mountains collapsed, so everything was underneath, right? But when they went, the mountains were back up. Asiv Amrle Yisrael, so they told Klal Yisrael what happened. V'amru Shira, they said Shira. That's the third nace. Avni al Gabish Mai Avni al Gavish. What happened there? Tana Avanim Sha'amdu al Gavish are stones that were raised because of a person, and V'yard al Gavish. And there was another stone because it came down because of a person. Amdu al Gavish. There were stones that stayed up because of Ish, and that's them. Moshe is called Ish, the Ksiv, Ish, Moshe, Anav Me'oid, the Ksiv. So what was the miracle that happened because of the Ish, of Moshe that stood up? By the Makkos of Mitzrayim, all the hail that stopped, so they started coming down, and when Moshe asked Kadosh Baruch Hu to stop the Makkah, the hail just stayed up, elevated in the air. Suspended. That's the word, right? Suspended. That's the nest that happened because of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Yardu Agav Ish Zeh Yeshua. When did it come down? It came down because of Yeshua, when Yeshua needed it. The Ksiv Kach L'cha is Yeshua ben Nun Ish. He's also considered the Ish. Asher Ruach Bai. The Ksiv, when did the stones come down and help out Klal Yisrael? But he b'naises b'nei Yisrael, heim b'mayir beis chayim, Hashem hishlach aleim. When the Goyim were attacking Klal Yisrael, I don't know if the Goyim were attacking Klal Yisrael. Where's the Rashi here?
It says that
I thought that the Jews were helping, some nation wanted to help out Klal Yisrael, and the other nation were going to kill them that were friends with Klal Yisrael.
Right.
So HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped out those people that were friends with Eretz Yisrael. Those were the hailstones that came down. Now, once they were elevated, now they came down because of Yeshua. Next story. So you have to do a haidah. Evan shebikesh oik melech habash and lizrag al Yisrael. There was a stone that oik wanted to destroy Klal Yisrael. That's a gomer gemirale. We don't have a pasuk, but we have a kabbalah that it happened. Amar, what did oik say? Machne Yisrael kamehava. How wide is Machne Yisrael, the camp of Yisrael? Plus a parseh. So Ezav akatura bar plus a parseh. I will uproot a mountain that is 3 parses long. I'll pick it up and throw it right on Klal Yisrael, Victale, and I'll kill them. Azal akatura bar plus a parsa. So I picked up a mountain. So Asal the acceleration it picked up on his head. HaKadosh Baruch Hu came. Ayale Kamsa. He brought these ants. Rashi says they're in the mullet. And the nakve, and they made a hole in the mountain. So when it was on Oik's head, all of a sudden it fell down on V'nachos Leibet Savare. It got stuck on his neck. But Haviboy Lemishvle. Now Oik wanted to just throw it off him. But Mashche Shinayu Lahaikisa Lahaikisa. All of a sudden the mountain, in other words, the teeth came out and got stuck there, right? And he couldn't pick it up. I broke the teeth of a Russia. The Gemara says no. Could have Shimon ben Lakish. The Amar of Shimon ben Lakish might accept Shine Risham Shibarta. Al Tikri Shibarta El Shirafta. I extended it. In other words, he extended the teeth, not from the mountain, actually from Ike's mouth. He extended the teeth, and they got stuck.
Did he die?
No.
Then Moshe came with his axe.
Well, wait. So, Shibarta means extended. So I'm going to ask a question now. Where else in the Torah do you have something that extended? Luchas, but...
Oh, what's her name? Basha's hand.
Very good, excellent, good.
Where?
Basia Baspari, when she went to get Moshe Rabbeinu, so she stuck out her hand, and it says that her hand extended and got the Moshe out of the very good, good. Okay. So what happened now? So Oig is stuck in his mountain. So Moshe Kamahave. How tall was Moshe? Moshe was Eser Amos, was 10 Amos tall. And Rashi says that's the way he built the Beis Hamikdash. So we see that he's Eser Amos. Shakol Narga Bar Aser. He took a axe that was also 10 Amos long. Shavar Aser Amma, and he jumped 10 Amos, and that's 30 Amos high. You know what 30 Amos is?
45 feet.
Could be even 60 feet, right? Whatever it is, between 40. It could be more than whatever it is. That's how it is. And where did he get? He only reached Bekarsule Vekatla. He only reached the ankle of Oik, and that's how he killed him. So can you imagine how tall Oik was when he's hanging onto that teva? Can you imagine how big he was? And Nebuch, he wanted his little Sarah. Can you imagine the Shein Lamedale he wanted? Okay. The Evan Sheyoshev Aleh Moshe. Now the stone that Moshe sat on. The Ksiv, it says Moshe Kvedim, when he was davening and everything was going good, but then his hands got heavy. The Yichlu Evan, it says Vayisimu Tachtav Vayashiv Aleh. So he took a stone and he sat on it. Who held up his hands? Well, we see in the Torah that Aaron and Hur, right? So Rashi says here Moshe Kvedim in the middle. It says Ve'ini Yachol LePoishtikayam. He just couldn't hold it up high. Elim came Taimchim Israel. The Yichlu Evan. The Yisimu Tachtav. In Rashi's mashma that they put the stone under the hand, it seems like, right? But the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says that he sat on it. And it seems like when we always learned that they held up his hands, right?
Yeah, right.
So there's different ways of learning it. It's the same?
Tachtav is singular.
Right.
Him.
So what do you mean? Of the hands, you mean?
Hands, plural.
So
it may not be mashma from Rashi's hand.
Okay. So you're saying came Tonchas of Yichul Evan Visimu Tachtav under him. Okay. Okay, good. Shkoyach. Very good.
He sat on the rock.
Okay, Ishta Shalit, the Shenem Vatabit Ishta Me'acharav. She looked back. She wasn't the Tinitza Melech. Right. The Chaim is Yericha Sheniblu. The walls that got swallowed up. The Ksiv Atipol HaChaim Tachtel. So where it says Bishlam Yitkul, all these are Nisim, so therefore you say Shvach. El Ishta Shalit is pronounced. She got punished. The Amar, where it says the Amar Baruch Dayin Emes. That's the thing you say. You don't say Haydah, you say Baruch Dayin Emes. I've Hadah V'Shvachtani. But in the Bryce it says that you're giving Shvach. Where it says Tani Al Light Val Ishtai Mevarchim. Right? Shtayim, Mevarchim Shtayim. If you see light and his wife, then you say two. Alishta Yomer Barathayin Emes. And the light you say Baruch Zeicher Es HaTzadikim. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. I feel b'shas kasha shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. Even when Kadosh Baruch Hu is angry, still Zeicher Es HaTzadikim. He still remembers the Tzadikim. Shenemar v'hi b'shachas Elokim Es Arya Kikar. When he was destroying Sodom, Vayiskar Elokim as Avraham, and then Vayishtachas Lei B'techa. The only way he saved light is first, you have to remember our avos. V'chaim is Yiricha Shenivlu, Frag Gemara, V'chaim is Yiricha Nivlu. He got swallowed up. V'naflu, it says it collapsed. It was still up there. And then Vayikishmaya Am is Kol HaShefer, Vayiraham Trua G'dayla, but people Achaim Etachtea. It fell, right? Rashi says Tachtea, Mashmem B'mid Kaima, V'yef Shazu El Al Yidei Belia. So what's going on here? There's Nephilah. Gemara says that's actually a different Rashi. So Gemara asks, "Even the pushi berumik hadadi ninu, since the width and the height are exactly even, therefore mishum hachi avlu belue." Rashi says, "Venim fellows nekares by nivlu." If something that's so thick and tall that the same thing, it doesn't look like it collapsed. It looks like it's still standing, right?
Can't fall over.
Right. That Rashi says they feel in the keres by, even though it did fall, it collapsed, but in loy nivlu, it's not recognized. Can't tell in loy nivlu. That's why the whole ness is if it goes in. Mishamacha ivlu b'avaderach nefila. That is the derech nefila l'chaim zut. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Arbaim tzrichim lahaydais. 4 people have to give haydah when kishiyotze ben hasakana, she says. Yarda hayayim, somebody gets off a plane, holchem midbariyos, or from a ship, holchem midbariyos, out of a desert, misha hayachayla v'nisrapa. If you're a chayla and you have a refuah, right? Umisha hayachafish beis asurim. If a guy is in prison, he has to give haydah. Right? So Yard Hayom and all Nixiv Yard Hayom Ba Niyos, this pasuk says Hemera Masi Hashem Vaimer, Vayamaruach Sara Yala Shemaim Yodas Haimais. There was bad weather Vaimi Chogl, Kashikar, and then what happened Vayimer Vaitzakol Hashem, they were davening Batsalem and Gesem Yotziem, Vayim Yakim Sarlad Mama. Terrible things on the ocean happening, and they daven Vayimer Vayismechu Ki Yishtaiku. They were happy that it stopped. And what does it say then? They gave Haidah after that to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So you see that you have to give Haidah. They were lost in the desert. Derech here Moshav. They davened by Yisakal Hashem. They davened to Hashem by Yiderchem Derech Yeshara. He let them out of there. And then what do they do? Hashem Chazai. You have to have Haidah. Also Mishacholim is Rapa. People that were sick, HaKadosh Baruch Hu healed them, and then it says you have to go ahead and praise Hashem. If a person's in the dark in jail, Imri Kael, so there's different things. If you're sick, how sick should you be to go ahead and give Aidah? If you just have a headache, do you have to give? So there's different. There's different shitas in it. You have to look into that. So if all these Abraham strichel haida, so what do you say? What is your praise? Rabbi Yehuda, you say Hakadosh Baruch Hu Goimel Chasad M'Tovim. Abaya Amar, when you say it, you have to have 10 people that you're giving the shvach Hakadosh Baruch Hu Ksiv v'Armemua Mikal Am, and that is Mikal Am. A kahal is minimum is 10. Mazitra Amar v'Trei Minai Rabbanan. 2 of the 10 should be Talmidei Chacham and Shenemar v'Moshe Zakenim. They should be Zakenim Yahalua. Maskal Rav Ashi v'Hemekul Rabbanan. Maybe it should be all 10 should be Rabbanan. Why only 2? The Gemara says Mi Ksiv B'Kahal Zakenim. It says B'Kahal Am Ksiv. So in other words, there should be 10. Only 2 should be that. Frei the Gemara v'Hema Be'asara Sharama. Maybe you should have 12. 10 should be regular people, but Trei Rabbanan. So the Gemara says Kasha. So from here, this Tzarech Lahidas, that's why people bench Gaimel. When you bench Gaimel, this is the Lahodos, right? Rabbi Yehuda Chalash. Rabbi Yehuda was sick. And all of a sudden, and then in this rapid, Rashi says, it became better. All the Gabei Rav Chanan Begadata. Rav Chanan from Baghdad came. But Rabbanan and Rabbanan came along. Amrlei, they said to Rabbi Yehuda that was sick and was better. Baruch Rachamana Diyav and Allah. Baruch Hashem. thank God that you're still alive, that He gave you back to us. L'yav la'afra, you didn't get buried. Amalahu, so Rabbi Yehuda says, but by you praising God Baruch Hu with that, Patrusa Yasi Miladai, you pattered me from giving Haidah, but you did it for me. The Gemara, I you need 10. Have a Be'asar. There were 10 there. But Rabbi Yehuda wasn't saying it. His Talmidim were saying it. When it says like Tzarech, why? The Ani Basrei, Amen, because he did say Amen. Rabbi Yehuda, Shloisha Tzricha Shimur. The 3 people that have to watch out of Mazikim. Right? Ve'elahein Chayla, a sick person. And a Chasen and Kala, that's why they have a Shomer or Shomeret. Right? Mazitin Tana, a Chayla, a Chaya. A woman is giving birth, and Chasen the Kalav. Yesh Aimrim Av an Avel, in other words, has to have Shimur from the Mazikim. Yesh Aimrim Av Talmid Chacham Belayla, in other words, a Talmud Chacham at night also should be careful. Rabbi Yehuda, just 2 more lines. Shleishus Devarim, Marichin Yamim Shneishul Adam. 3 things will give you Arichas Yamim. Amarich B'Tfilasai, a guy davens a long Shemon Esrei. A guy sits long at his table. Rashi says, you sit at your table and you can give aniyim to eat, right? And then you get brachas from them. Is a refuha. If you take your magazine into the newspaper, into the washroom, that's good.
Mike.
That's it.